Welcome to the Global Discussion, the discussion with creatives, leaders, and thinkers. My name is Simon Hodgkins. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Mina Dedekoca. Mina, you're very welcome to the show. Let's begin by asking you maybe to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your world for our worldwide audience. Over to you, Mina.
Thank you. It's amazing to be on the podcast. Thank you for inviting me. It's a total pleasure. So my story is I started in a corporate world in electronic retailers, and after 7 years, I decided to have my own path and created two brands. And so I am running a company with several brands, and what is more about startups, helping startups thrive and get ready for their investment phases. I'm mentoring them. And the other one is for the happiness and well-being culture. The remote work side of the world is Happy Work Studio. We are helping both the companies and the individuals adapt to this new way of working, but not necessarily about the where to work from, but how. So we are like helping them, hand holding to show them how it's more effective, more productive, and in a way that it has less burnout, more happiness. So we're helping companies to build that happy culture so that the people in the company, they thrive and they're at their best selves every day. And I have been a remote worker since 2012, way before it was a thing. So way before pandemic. I was a country manager for several organizations with remote work, fully distributed remote work focuses. And so that's where my expertise was since 2012. I did several future of work conferences with international participants. And also I have been focusing more on the well-being side and like converging both things, both remote work, flexible work with well-being for the last couple of years.
Well, thank you, Mina, for sharing that. And I must say, I love the fact that you are not only the founder, but you're the Chief Happiness Officer, which is a title I love, at Happy Work Studio. And obviously being a remote worker and in that world since, what did you say, 2012?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
before it was a cool thing to do, or before we were forced into
exactly.
doing it because of the pandemic. You know an awful lot about this world. And I want to talk to you a little bit. Maybe can we start at the well-being side of things, maybe? Um, because remote work and well-being have a very close link, don't they? And you talk an awful lot about this in the work that you do. But could you, I want to ask you this at a time where we're seeing some big technology companies sort of mandating a return to the
Mm,
office. And we're seeing a lot of employees rebelling against this and saying, well, hang on, I do my best work when I'm not in the office, and it's less productive for me. And then there's the commute, and then there's the impact on, I suppose, things like mental health and well-being. Could you maybe unpack that for me a little bit in terms of where we're at and maybe some of the benefits to
mhm.
this new way of working?
Yeah, sure. So what we have, as you said, what we have been hearing a lot over the last 1 year is those uh, some people being summoned to back to the office, and just that tug of war between the two sides. Like, are you coming to the office? No, I don't want to come to the office. Everyone's talking about the office. And what they're missing is office, or like, how, as we call like the where to work from, is only a component of this discussion or of this change. So people are so much obsessed about this, the where part of it, that they are missing the how part of it. And what we need to discuss more is about the how. So, and meaning, like, do you do a lot of meetings, or is it like, do you embrace asynchronous communication? Do you let your people work freely, like with the mindset side? And do you let them get immersed with the things that they enjoy doing? Or do you just make them feel comfortable in expressing their ideas freely, which is psychological safety? So these are all the new way that we perceive work as. Because before and it did not happen because of the pandemic. The pandemic just created more awareness about these things. And well-being was not like on the focus of most of the companies, but they realized that this impact of having low, rates in engagement or well-being is affecting directly, has an effect on the profitability, on the performance of the company. So there's a lot of research, and we see that the top Forbes 500 companies, if you look at them, the ones with the higher well-being and the employee or the engagement rate, they tend to perform well and when compared to the others. So this remote work, so where does remote work play a role in this? The flexibility, when you look at research, flexibility is one of the top factors for happiness in people. I mean, let alone the work side of it. In general, people like to be flexible. Why? Because they get to choose things in their lives. So when you say remote work, it's not necessarily the where to work from, but like how and when you work. So you get to choose the how part and the when part. And in fully distributed organizations, this happens so naturally because people are working all over the globe. So no one cares when they work because it's like a 24-hour thing. It's just like, when people wakes up, the other goes to sleep and the work is being done asynchronously. So it is really important to put the focus on this how part. So to design everything accordingly so that people are flexible about like expressing their ideas, being just how to work and being free to work. And in that sense, if you look at the companies that complain about remote work, you see that they have not changed any of these, the processes or how to work, the tools, nothing, but they just let their employees go home and work from home without changing anything, without changing the way they work. And they failed. And now they're accusing remote work for their failure. Whereas the change has to happen in the whole holistic way, so that the change is happening in the communication and how they do work and their meeting notes. I mean, even like in their employee experience when they're posting a job. So everything has to be aligned, and that takes intentionality. So the companies need to do it intentionally. And the ones that do it, right, you see that the well-being of the employees are going higher because they have that flexibility of both self-expression and how they do the work, the accountability, all of those components are prevalent in the company, in the culture.
So thank you, Mina, for that. It's a great answer. And can I ask a follow-on question then? So are you seeing and do you see in your work that companies that do change the way that they operate, not just send people home to work from home or wherever, but this flexibility, the changing of processes, the changing of how the work is done, maybe and managed. Do companies that do that right, do they improve dramatically? Does it have a much better result for the company as well as for the individual who's benefiting from that new way of working?
Exactly. I mean, we see that all of the companies who do it right, who change their processes, the first thing that they see is the improvement in productivity. So, and by productivity, sometimes this is also being interpreted wrong because people take productivity as something that you do more. And whereas, when we were talking about during the pandemic days, especially when people were mentioning productivity, they meant like working more, longer hours because people were at home. So they had the flexibility of working more. Well, it's not that, it's actually working less, but doing more. So now we have this notion that the outcome-based companies, so who care about the outcome and the quality of outcome, their employees tend to work less. And so what happens is the input is less, but the output is more. That is productivity. And so I mean, think about this. If you just redesign your processes in a way that people are working less but producing more, what happens to that excess time? Then they put that excess time either into their personal lives, into self-development. And we also see some companies also spare that time, let their employees spare that time for their self-development. And we see that that self-development also fuels the creativity in the company. So another thing that we see with these companies is the increased creativity in the teams. So they become more innovative. So that innovation, that being innovativeness, is helping them to produce even more innovative ideas, more creativity, more things. So the things that they do in their personal lives is also has an effect on the company's creativity. So this is like a something that has a butterfly effect. So you may not, and companies may not see that direct influence, but at the end, when you do a research, when you look at these components, you say that all of these components tend to increase over time. And that also increases the profitability. That keeps you ahead of the competition. Because now we know that talent is scarce, especially the quality talent is scarce. And so, and retaining that talent is even harder. So finding talent is hard, but like retaining that is harder. So all of these companies who are letting their people do like, that flexibility, that with high well-being, then those people just the retention rate is higher because they like to stay in those companies because they are thriving in those companies. So that is also the retention rate is also going higher with those companies.
That's really, really interesting, and I really like what you said there. And something that really stuck with me was the phrase, less input and more output. Because most people don't think of it like that, they think of more input and more output, but
Exactly.
it completely makes sense from the way you've described it. And that other investments that you can make then with that less input, if I can put it that way, has a tremendous knock-on effect in all aspects of your life and also benefits the employer or the company, right? So thank you for sharing that. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about the term digital nomad. Obviously, there are things happening around the world, and people, we see these wonderful pictures of people with laptops in hammocks on beaches. But from a digital nomad perspective, or from the future of work perspective, what's happening? What's happening in your world? What are plans in Turkey? How do you see this continuing as we move forward?
Mhm. Uh, I was working for Upwork back in 2012, and I was a country representative. And when I was presenting about the future of work and how remote work is going to be the new norm, we were having projections about the year 2023, when that would come to like, half of the workforce. Now the pen had been in the play, we saw that accelerating a lot. So over the last couple of years, and I love the fact that you said the future of work, not only digital nomadism, because when we only talk about digital nomadism, sometimes people get intimidated with that idea of being a nomad. And they say, oh, that life is not for me. That's not my lifestyle. So I cannot be a digital worker. So digital nomadism is like now going towards more like a slow medicine, where people like to spend more time in a specific location, more than 6 months, more than maybe like a year. And we see more digital workers and like being boundless, not being bounded by the location. And they are just like, carrying their laptop with them all around the globe and working for companies and making good amount of money. So this idea that digital nomads are the backpackers that are going for low budget hotels, low budget lifestyles is not the truth anymore. So that's really important to underline because sometimes people think that this is like the new version of backpacking, which is not. These people are really like highly skilled, high earning individuals who does not like to stick to a certain location. They all have a home base, but they like to travel. So that's one thing. And how this is evolving in my own country, Turkey, is the Ministry of Tourism and Culture just released a digital nomad visa among the other 50 something countries back in April. And so we now see more digital nomads coming to Turkey, and we try to intentionally promote Turkey to be a digital worker friendly country. And now with perfect pleasure, I have this privilege to announce that we will be doing the first Digital Nomad Fest in Turkey in late springtime. So now we are working on that to attract more people and to bring the community together, because this is a community. I mean, some of us, we have been in this since the early like 2010s, but for some of the other people, they're just like they keep joining this community, and the feeling of being in that community, we have been talking about the commonalities between us, and one of them is sustainable, being a sustainable conscious person, being conscientious about the resources of the world, giving back to the communities where we are just like traveling to, um, helping other people, less advantaged people, to be more digital literate and to work in these job opportunities where they can work from anywhere. That really democratizes the work as well. So what we are aiming with this is to increase the welfare of more people around the world. So when you look at it from that perspective, this is a huge thing. This would have a huge impact. This is well beyond the discussion about the office, or like, what's going to happen to the real estate. No, this has a bigger impact. People need to see this. So this is what we are I'm helping my country to realize and to be more into that impact-driven initiatives when we are calling more digital nomads into the country.
It does bring me on to the next question, which is sort of what's on your roadmap for the year ahead? Because for people watching or listening to this episode, they may not know that you're a founding member of the Remote First Institute. You're a co-founder at something called the Vivel Network. You're a writer for a very well-known global publication. You're in the venture capital VC world. And then there's everything that you're doing, from founders, startup awards, the Happy Work Studio, and everything that we've just mentioned. I don't know how you find the time, but what's on your radar? What does the next 6 to 12 months look like for you? What are you hoping to achieve, Mina?
Mhm. So when people look at my LinkedIn profile, they get really confused. They say, "What exactly are you doing for business?" And this is exactly as you described. And now with my keynotes, I like to also visualize this. So I put myself in the middle and put my left brain and right brain, and like to call it my left brain jobs and my right brain jobs, because I'm a person of balance. So as much as I like being in technology, I like being in the well-being and happiness side of this world. So in my roadmap for the next 6 months to a year is that, again, balancing those responsibilities. My responsibility as being a founder is also well coincides with these initiatives that I'm planning, like doing the Digital Nomad Festival, doing a remote work job fair, which is one of the things as well, doing the World Summit, Happiness World Summit with World Happiness Foundation. That is also scheduled for September. Now we started working on that. So that's the event space I'm focusing on. And also on the Global Startup Award side, I'm now leading the alumni efforts on that side, because the alumni is thousands of people from the last 12 seasons of Global Startup Awards. So bringing together that community, that alumni at specific locations around the world, with strategic brand partnerships. So like doing those partnerships with brands to bring more alumni together in specific locations. That's another thing on the event side. And also on the startup side, my VC side, let me say, closing the fund and trying to find the right startups to invest. and mentoring those startups. I'm also doing lots of social responsibility projects where I am working with different foundations and associations to partner with to increase the digital literacy of the women, less like disadvantaged women, and also the young women, to have them learn the way to work as a digital nomad, and also like work from Turkey to like other side of the world as remotely to make more money, because like using the power of the foreign currency. And so I am dividing my time being impactful person, with being an investor, helping people to grow their businesses, and also this remote work well-being side of the things.
Wow, it's very impressive, Mina. I don't know how you do it all, but it is fantastic. And thank you for explaining that to us and what the next year or so looks like for you. Finally, before we run out of time today, is there anything else you would like to share with our worldwide audience? And secondly, and really importantly, as well as your sort of final thoughts, if people want to connect with you and find out more about the great work that you're doing, where's the best place to send people to or to point them to?
So my message would be, I'm also part of the editorial, let's say the initiatives of LinkedIn. And last week I just recorded the video about my predictions about next year for the human resources side. And my prediction is that for next year, well-being is going to be more on the focus of most of the companies and people. So if you want to just thrive in what you do, focus on your well-being, because it's going to be a challenging year ahead. And we have been being challenged over the last couple of years. But if you're an employer, just make sure that you are putting more focus on the well-being of your employees. If you're an employee, just try to find the things that excite you, that put you like at your best self, and discover those and be like more aligned with your life. If you want to start a business, if you're looking for ideas, make sure that you are focusing on the things, even if you're using like something like AI, make sure that you are making others' lives easier and more comfortable, because those are going to be the things that we will see trending this year. And about how to reach me, if you're looking for an investment, if you're looking for new ideas, or if you want to just get a help with your company, building the culture, company culture, living values, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Dedekoca, or you can go to my website, happywork.studio, and just fill out the form to reach out to me or the team so that we can help you with building that happy culture in your company.
Well, that brings us nicely to the end of this episode. Thank you so much to everybody who's been watching or listening to our discussion today. Make sure that you follow, like, subscribe, do everything I need you to do to help support this show, the Global Discussion. And hopefully you'll join me back here for some more discussions with creatives, leaders, and thinkers just like Mina. But Mina, thank you for being on the show. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you again today.
Same here. Thank you so much for hosting me. I really enjoyed our conversation.